So, hi everybody, welcome. And yeah, I think we've got a few other people coming in. So, just whilst everyone's joining, do just take a couple of minutes to make sure that you've got everything you need for today's practice, that you've got a comfortable, quiet spot to settle yourselves into. Hopefully, you have a yoga mat. If you have a folded blanket handy, please have one close to your mat. They're quite helpful just to use as a little bit of a prop and also to cover yourself with at the end. So just take a couple of moments, get yourself settled. Whilst everybody's sort of trickling in and joining, I'll just introduce myself. So many of you will know me. My name's Kirran. I'm a GP. I work in Rushcliffe. But the other part of what I do is yoga, actually. And this is an area of interest for me, something that I've been doing for many years, I'd say, sort of on and off, and found that it's a practice that I've always kept coming back to. And so because it's been an area of interest for me, 3 years ago, I undertook the yoga instructor training course. Not necessarily because I wanted to become an instructor, but it's just something that I was interested in and I wanted to learn more about. So over the last couple of years, I've been just teaching a group of friends informally, and the opportunities come up to offer something a little bit more. So I'm really delighted that you can all join me today. So today's session is the first of a 4-part little series that I've put together. And the idea of this is to help to rebalance and realign and just reset yourselves for the new year. So we're going to get started today with a practice that covers many of the common yoga postures. So in lots of yoga classes, you find that we tend to repeat a lot of the same postures over and over again in different ways and in different sequences. So I thought it would be helpful to start quite a traditional style of teaching. So it's a Hatha style class today. And we're going to focus on alignment and balance in these postures. So we're going to start the session by laying down on your mat. So I'd like you to take your time and take a couple of moments just to come to lay on your back and find a position that's comfortable for you. So some people like to have their legs stretched out ahead of them. Others like to take a bend in their knees. And before we sort of come into any of the physical postures, just be mindful that if you do have any sort of aches, pains or injuries, please be kind to yourself and use any modifications, or do just come out of any postures that you need to. So really just pick what's right for you today and really listen to the body. So let's come to settle down on the mat. Have a little shuffle around, readjust yourselves and just get yourselves really comfortable. So find whichever position feels right for you today. If you have lower back issues, as I say, you may want to take a bend in the knees. And then let's just start to become aware of how you feel physically. So the physical sensations in the body. And you may want to take a brief body scan. So you may just want to check down from head to toe, touching on any areas that may be a little bit uncomfortable, any areas that feel potentially a little bit tight, and just notice how you feel. So just going down from head all the way down to the toes. Gently letting go of any thoughts or feelings that you may have been carrying before the practice. Let's leave those outside the room. And I'd like to draw your attention to the meaning of the word yoga. So yoga means to join, and we're going to take that meaning as the joining or the union of the mind and the body. So the mind is connected to how the body feels and what the body's doing in the practice today. So we're keeping our focus on any physical sensations. And another really important part of yoga practice is the breath. And we often use the breath as the anchor or the link between the mind and the body. So I'd like you to bring your awareness to your breathing now. So let's just follow the breath, follow the passage of air as it enters the nostrils and comes into the back of the nasal passages and down, back of the throat, into the chest. Become aware of any areas of movement and any areas where the breath may feel less free. Start to deepen the breath very slightly, and I'm going to introduce you to a breathing technique that we use in yoga. It's called the Ujjayi breath, and Ujjayi means victorious. So this is a technique that we use in physical yoga postures, and the mouth is closed, and we have almost like a sense of control in the back of the throat with the breathing. So the back of the throat almost acts as a little bit of a control center or a valve, so that the in-breath and the out-breath are nice and even and nice and steady. So let's try to do that now. So we're using the back of the throat as the control center with the mouth closed. And as you do this, you may notice a little noise in the back of the throat. We often describe it as sounding a bit like the waves of the ocean. And just see if that comes to you. So we'll take a couple more breaths here. And this technique in the exhalation is often quite helpful as we're holding yoga postures. So take one more breath in. And one more breath out. And then let's start to bring some movement into the fingertips and the toes. Gently circle the wrists and the ankles. And now hug the knees into the chest. So give yourself a big hug. Acknowledge the fact that you're giving yourself the time for the practice today. And let's start to rock from side to side gently. And very slowly turn towards the right-hand side. Make a pillow with the hands. And then slowly raise yourself up to a seated position. And we're going to start a little warm-up now. So we're going to come onto all fours. If you have a pair of socks on, like I do, now's a good time to remove them. So we're going to just gently start to warm up. So if you bring yourself to an all fours position, so knees usually are under the hips. If you have any knee issues, you can take your folded blanket and place it under the knees for a little bit of extra cushioning or padding. So you can place it underneath. And wrists usually are below the shoulders. But again, if you've got any wrist, elbow or shoulder issues, you could bring the hands forward slightly and spread through the fingers. And we're going to just warm up into a little bit of cat-cow. So on the next inhalation, let's take the gaze forwards and let's dip the belly and the lower back, opening up through the collarbones. Nice deep inhalation. And then let's exhale, let's round through the back, drawing up the navel, and then look between the legs. Nice deep inhalation. Let's look forwards, really dipping that lower belly. Let's open up through those collarbones. Exhale, round the spine, using the navel just to guide the movement, looking between the legs. And one more. Let's inhale, Look forwards, open up through the front of the chest. Let's exhale, round the spine. And then let's sit back onto the heels. So sit the bottom back onto the heels. And we're just going to come into a little child's pose here. So you may want to keep the hands stretched out ahead of you. The knees can be a little bit wide to give a bit of room for the chest. And we just bring the forehead gently down to the mat. And if the arms don't feel like they want to come forwards, you can take a little fold in the forearms and just clasp the elbows with the hands, and you can make a pillow for the forehead. So choose whichever position feels right for you. And take a pause. This is balasana and child's pose. So just be mindful that you can come back to this position at any point in the practice. Nice resting position. And gently, let's raise ourselves back up to all fours. And we're going to tuck the toes and spread through the fingertips. So we've got the fingers nicely spread, and we're gently going to just raise the knees about an inch off the mat. And we're going to come into a very gentle downward dog. So just raising the lower back, and we're bringing the thighs towards the belly here. So we've got really nice bent knees to start with. And very, very gently then just start to straighten through the back of one leg and then the other. So we're just pedaling through the backs of the legs, warming up the hamstrings, nice and slowly. And you can carry on pedaling, or you can take a little pause here, dropping down slightly with the heels. The biceps are about level with the ears. The gaze could be down at the mat or towards the navel. And then let's take a deep bend into the knees, and we're just going to walk forwards. So we'll bring the feet to join the hands, and you can come onto your fingertips here. And we're just going to pop ourselves into a standing forward bend. So we're just bringing the weight onto the feet now. Take a real bend into the knees here. If you have any issues with low blood pressure, just raise the head slightly. So raise the gaze forwards, or you could even come into a half tabletop. But if it feels good for you in the standing forward bend, we'll just stay in this posture. This is Uttanasana. We'll just stay here for a couple of moments. So we're just hanging like a rag doll. You may want to clasp the elbows with the hands. You may want to swing from side to side. And then let's place the hands onto the thighs. Take a deep bend into those knees and really gently raise yourself into a standing position. So we're going to start the practice with 2 sets of standing postures. And to start off with, we're going to just come into mountain pose. So this is Tadasana. So we're really just going to ground ourselves for a few minutes. So I'd like you to take your feet about hip distance apart. Think about the weight distribution between the right foot and the left foot, first of all. So take a couple of moments. You may just want to gently shuffle from side to side. You may want to rock forwards and backwards from the heels to the toes. And let's find that steady center point where the feet have a nice even contact with the ground beneath. Soften through the knees and gently just engage the inner thighs. And you may just find that the lower core or the lower belly just wants to engage slightly here, and the tailbone is pulled down. Hands facing forwards, palms facing forwards, and the lower ribs just pulling in very slightly. And let's broaden through the collarbones and steady ourselves in our nice, strong mountain posture, Tadasana. Just take a breath and slowly exhale. Okay, so we're going to come to the first section, first standing section now. So I'd like you to take your feet or take the body to face the long edge of the mat and take the feet around about just about a metre apart. So it could be slightly less, just depending on the length of your legs. I'm going to take the hands to the hips. And if you just look down at the toes just want to be in line with each other. And we're going to take the right toes and we're going to point the right toes to the short edge of the mat. So just simply turning the right toes forwards. And then the left heel just comes out very slightly, or toes just come in very slightly. So we've got a little bit more of a steady base in that left foot. You might want to take a micro bend into that right knee. And we're turning the hips to face this long edge of the mat if possible. If not, you may want to just take a little diagonal direction with the hips. So we're coming into triangle posture, Trikonasana to start with. So the left hand stays on the left hip and we're going to reach forwards with the right hand, almost as if you're reaching to touch the wall or fetch something off the table or something in front of you. And then let's start to tip the weight down. So the right hand could come to the right thigh, or it could come to the right shin. Just be mindful not to put any pressure on the knee here. And this isn't necessarily about how far you stretch down. This is about the openness of the chest. So we're just briefly going to take the left hand onto the back of the pelvis or onto the sacrum, just to really open up through the chest and the heart center so that we're not collapsing down through the posture. So this is a nice open posture. And then if this feels right for you, quite often you get quite a lot of benefits out of the posture just by staying here. So you could stay here, or you could start to extend the hands into T-shape. Just exploring your range and stay within your limits here. Let's take that nice deep Ujjayi breath. And then lower the left hand, bend into the right knee. We raise up and we're simply going to do the same on the other side. So we turn left toes facing short edge of the mat. Let's reach forwards with the left hand this time. Stretching forwards and then bringing the weight down to wherever feels comfortable for you. Take the right hand onto the back of the sacrum first of all. Make sure you've got a nice open chest and either stay here or you can then start to explore the T-shape with the arms. Using the Ujjayi breath. Nice deep exhalation. Extending through the posture. Let's bring the right hand back to the hip. Bend into the front knee to come out. Take a brief shake of the legs. And then we're going to take the stance slightly wider now. So coming into a warrior two stance. And traditionally, we usually say that it should be around about a leg length of your, so to your body proportions, it should be one of your leg lengths, should be about the distance between your feet in warrior two. So just as a guide. And then we turn the right toes forwards. So the right heel is in line with the arch of the left foot, the inner arch of the left foot. And we're going to just bend into that right knee to start with. And the right knee wants to track the baby toe so that we're not collapsing the knee in. So just be conscious that we're not collapsing in with the knee. And then let's bring the hands into T-shape. And we inhale. And as we exhale, let's just think a little bit deeper. And on the next inhalation, we're going to straighten the front leg and bring the hands up and overhead to meet. And then we exhale, let's come back down. Nice deep exhalation, a little bit deeper. And let's inhale back up one more time. And let's exhale back down. One more time, a little bit deeper. Then hands come back to hips and turn to the other side. Left toes come forwards. Take a bend into that left knee. And again, being mindful that the knee's not collapsing in. We're keeping a little bit of traction. And we bring the hands back into T-shape. Let's exhale, sinking down. And then let's inhale, straighten through the front leg. Hands come up and overhead. And exhale back down. Just a little bit deeper with each exhalation. We inhale, coming back up. And exhale, sinking very slightly deeper. And then let's straighten up. And take the hands back to the hips, and we turn back to the right side. And we're going to come into Parsvakonasana. So this is our extended side angle pose. So again, we take a bend into the right knee. The right forearm this time comes to rest on the right thigh. And then the left hand can either stay on the hip, or it could even come to the back of the sacrum, or you could extend the left hand up and overhead. And again, just being mindful not to collapse the upper body or the chest down. So it's a nice open posture, and the heart center is pointing up, really connecting with that line of energy all the way down the left side of the body. So just pressing into the outer edge of that back foot, of the left foot. And let's bring hand to hip to come out of the posture, and we turn to the other side, and we do the same, bending into the left forearm coming onto left thigh, and this time right hand comes up and overhead. And again, pressing into the outer edge of the right foot, feeling that line coming all the way down the right side of the body. And then let's bring the right hand to right hip, and let's come out of the posture. So if the legs need a little shake, just give them a bit of a reset here. And then we're going to take one final wide-legged stance. So we come back into our wide-legged position, and we're going to take a wide-legged forward bend. So the hands can stay on the hips. And on the next inhalation, we're going to bring the heart center just up a little bit. So we just look up to the ceiling, bring the heart center up, and then we exhale and hinge from the hips. So let's just hinge forwards. And we take a micro bend into the knees. And if this feels good for you, just stay halfway. If not, you could start to extend the hands out in front of you. And you can take a micro bend into that right knee, and then bend into the left knee. And then come back to center. Let's bring the hands back to the hips and gently raise yourself back up to standing posture. And again, let's bring the legs back and give them a little shake. So that completes the first sequence of standing postures. So hopefully that helps with a little bit of alignment. You know where to put your feet in these postures, and you'll know that the alignment for these postures is very similar. We're going to come to a slightly different position now. So this is the next sort of set of standing postures. So we're going to come to face the top edge of the mat, the short edge of the mat. So come to turn to face the short edge of the mat. And we'll go left foot forwards this time, just to rebalance. So the left foot comes, so the feet actually are a little bit wider than they were. So the feet are about shoulder distance apart. So almost as if you're standing on train tracks. And the left foot comes forwards, and the right foot comes back around about 1 metre. And the right toes, just want to point out, around about 45 degrees. And then hands to hips, and hips come to face forwards. So just be aware of the hip alignment here. And we're simply going to come into Warrior One, and there are various options here for you. So we just take a little bend into that left knee, and you could either raise the hands up and overhead. So you could inhale, raise the hands up. Or if you just want to focus on opening up the chest, you could take the hands onto the back of the sacrum, and this gives you a really nice chest opener. Or you could clasp the hands, or clasp the elbows behind the body, and again, this is a really nice chest opener. So just choose a position that feels right for you today. And we take an inhalation, and then let's exhale. And as you exhale, let's straighten up through the front leg. And I'd like you to bring the hands back to the hips, and we're going to simply hinge forwards now. And we're going to come into pyramid posture. So as you breathe, we just hinge from the hips. Have a nice long spine, so the spine's nice and active. And you can either stay here halfway, you can keep a little bend into that front knee, or if the arms feel like they've got a little bit more room, you could start to bring the fingertips towards the floor. So in either of these arm positions, let's start to push back with the left hip and forwards with the right. So we're just realigning the back of the pelvis and opening up through the sacroiliac joints here. And then let's bend into the front knee to raise ourselves back up. And you may want to give that leg a little shake. Or to shake the left leg. And then we'll do the same on the right side. So right toes come forwards and the left foot just comes behind. And again, you're in this sort of train track alignment with the feet. Left toes are pointing out around about 45 degrees. And the hands come to the hips. And again, we take a little bend into the right knee. Choosing whichever arm position feels good in your warrior one. Just sinking into the hips. Got a nice open chest. And then let's start to straighten up through the right knee and start to tip forwards from the hips with a nice long spine. And again, you can either pause here or you could start to bring the fingertips down and then start to push back through the right hip and forwards with the left. Again, just balancing out back of the pelvis. Use the Ujjayi breath, keeping the mouth closed. Use the exhalation to ease into the posture. And then let's bend into the knee. Bring the hands back up to the hips and we'll just shake both legs. And we're going to take one more posture here in this similar stance. We're going to take a twisting posture. So we're actually going to come onto a knee. So with your left foot forwards, I'm going to actually mirror you so that you can see me a bit better, but the left foot comes forwards and we come onto the right knee. So you may want to take your blanket under the knee if you feel that you need a little bit more padding. And we're going to take the hands into a cactus shape. So we start looking forwards and we start to turn the body very slowly, using the breath, start to turn the body towards the left-hand side. So with every exhalation, as you empty the belly, use this as the root of the twist. So we're not twisting from the neck or the eyes. The neck and the gaze always come last. So we're really starting from the bottom up with the twist. And the neck can actually stay quite soft, or your gaze could even stay forwards if that's enough for you. And if this feels good, just stay here for a moment. If you'd like a little bit more, you can bring the hands into a prayer position and you could start to hook the right elbow around the outer edge of the left knee. Just being mindful not to let the knee collapse in. And again, just using that to create a little bit of space in the belly and turn the body round to the left-hand side. And let's release on the next exhalation. And we simply change sides. So you're going to come to bring the right foot forwards and the left foot Hands back, and then let's take those hands into cactus. And again, starting to turn as you empty the belly with the exhalation, turning the body to the right hand side. Either stay here or you can start to bring the hands into prayer and just hook the elbow onto the outside of the knee. And again, twisting from the belly upwards. So it's always belly, chest. And then if the neck and the gaze feel that they want to follow, then do so. Or they can stay down. Quite often you feel it in the glutes here, or the outer thigh. Let's gently unhook. And then we're going to just lower ourselves into a seated position now. So we come to sit on your mat. We're going to come into a posture called Dandasana, which is a little bit like Tadasana. So it's a little bit like the seated version of mountain pose. So this is called Dandasana, which means staff pose. So remove any flesh from the sit bones, and usually the feet, the legs are straight out ahead of you. Now, if that feels a bit strong for you, you could take your blanket under the knees and just give a little bit of cushioning under the knees. And if the lower back's sort of collapsing in and struggling a bit, you could also take the lower blanket under the bottom. And this just raises up the hips a little bit to help to neutralize any pelvic tilt. So you can have a little play around and just see what feels right for you if you feel that you want to use the blanket. And this is quite an active posture. So I'd like you just to place the hands by your sides. They may want to come a little bit in front of you or a bit behind, just depending on your body proportions. And bring your awareness to your feet. Flare through the toes, and it's almost as if you're gently pressing against a wall in front of you. The inner thighs are engaged, tailbone is long, and the chest is nice and open. So we just take a breath. Nice, steady, slow exhalation through the posture. And then we just come off or remove any props that you have. And we're going to come into the next posture. So next one is called Janushirshasana. So we're going to take a bend into the right knee. The left leg can stay where it is. And then the right knee is just going to come out to the side so that the sole of the right foot comes into contact with the inner left thigh. And if you feel that you need that support, you can again use your very useful blanket just to put under the right knee so that that's supported. And then we're going to take an inhalation and raise the hands up and overhead. And we're simply going to exhale, folding forwards towards either the left knee or shin, ankle or foot. So just explore your limits. You could keep a bit of a bend into that left knee, so you could keep it quite soft in the left leg. And keep the gaze towards the toes. And we're really lengthening through the right side of the body. So as you come into this posture, as you hold the posture, there are really two components. You'll feel the stretch down the back of the leg, but also you'll feel this stretch in the right lower back. So we're opening up again through the back of the pelvis, the quadratus lumborum, getting a nice release here. So really breathe through this. Keep the knees soft if it's strong on the back of the leg. Let's walk the hands back up. Then we change sides. So the right leg comes out, we bend into that left knee, sole of the left foot comes to the inner right thigh. And again, we inhale Hands come up and overhead. And we exhale, folding forwards. Just choosing what feels good for the limits of the body today. Gaze stays towards the toes so that the spine stays nice and active. Use that nice steady exhalation to deepen into the posture slightly. And now walk the hands back up. And we're going to now take the legs out ahead of you. So around about hip distance apart. The hands again can come to either side. And we're gently just going to turn the toes in so that the toes come to touch. And then rock the feet out. So I'd like you just to continue this movement. So we're turning in and out with the toes. And with each movement, let's make that slightly quicker so that it just becomes a roll of the legs. So we're simply rolling through the legs, but we're keeping that contact with the toes every time the legs roll in. And that actually just keeps our attention on what we're doing and on the posture and the physical movements. So we're just softening through the legs here. We've used them quite a lot. Okay, we just slow down the movements. And then we're now going to come to a prone section. So we're going to come to a few postures laying on the front. Now, just be mindful, if you do have lower back issues, please think about your range and think about your limits and what's right for you. If you feel that it's going to be a bit strong for you, simply just come into a child's pose and come to a resting posture. But if you feel that coming onto the front will be okay and you can tolerate it, then please do come to stretch out onto your front. And I'd like you to come almost into a superhero posture. So lower yourselves onto your front and bring the hands out in front of you, and the forehead comes to the mat. So we're almost in a Superman type position. And really feeling the stretch all the way down, back of the body. You might want to walk the fingertips forwards and the toes back. Engage the pelvis. And then let's raise the head very slightly and start to come back with the forearms. So we're going to come onto the forearms with the elbows coming under the shoulders. So we're coming into Sphinx. So the palms are in contact with the mat. And if this feels quite strong on the lower back, you can widen the forearms. But if it feels okay, then let's just lengthen through the spine. So this is not about hyperextending the neck. We're simply just keeping the neck in neutral. So the gaze may just want to stay very close to you on the mat. Let's breathe through the posture. And as we exhale, come back down. So we bring the forehead to the mat and we walk the hands back a little bit further so that the fingertips are now level with the mid-ribs and the elbows are just tucked in to the sides of the body. And we're just preparing for a little mini cobra. So on the next inhalation, we raise the head and the chest. And again, not hyperextending the neck. We're elongating through the spine rather than bringing any significant extension. So you can press into the hands and then lower back down. And then on the next inhalation, we raise back up into the same posture. And this time you may want to just raise the hands off the mat and just test the strength in the upper back. And then let's exhale and lower back down. So keeping the hands where they are for a brief moment, I just want you to come onto your fingertips So almost making the hands into a little spider shape. And then I'd like you to walk the hands out to the sides. So the hands come out to the sides of the mat. And as they do so, your elbows will want to just come up to the ceiling or point up towards the ceiling. So we've got a nice wide position with the hands here. And we're simply going to take the same posture. So we're simply going to raise up through the head and front of the shoulders, the collarbones. So we're opening up through the front of the chest here. Nice chest opener. And gently lower back down. So we'll lower the forehead back. And now one more final posture here. So we're now going to take the hands behind us. So that the palms come to face the thighs and the thumbs are in contact with the mat and the little fingers are pointing up to the ceiling. So simply got the hands or the arms by the sides of the body. And on the next inhalation, we come into Shalabhasana. So we inhale, just raise up through the head and the neck and the shoulders. If it feels okay, you may want to take the hands off the mat. You may want to take the feet off the mat. And we inhale. And we exhale to lower back down. Let's make a pillow with the hands now. So just make a pillow with the hands and just turn the head to one side. And simply just let everything go and rest here for a brief moment. And then I'd like you to come to turn onto the back now. So whichever way feels right for you, you come to lay on your back. Keep a bend in the knees, and we're going to come into a little bridge posture. So lowering back down gently onto the mat. So you may want to walk the feet slightly closer to the bottom here. Palms are in contact with the mat and the arms just by your sides. Take a moment just to set yourself. You may want to pick the tailbone up a couple of times just to test the movements initially. And then steady the gaze. Just pick a spot on the ceiling ahead of you and keep the neck still. And we're gently going to press into the hands and the feet and raise, very slowly raise the tailbone and raise the spine gradually up. Push forwards with the knees to create a little bit of height. And again, go within your own limits of the body. So whatever feels right for the body, just take a pause wherever that feels good. You may want to clasp the hands under the bottom. So as they have contact with the mat, could just clasp the fingers. And just hold for a brief couple of moments. And then slowly release. Coming down vertebra by vertebra. Nice and slowly. And you may just want to rock the pelvis from side to side. And we're just going to take one more. So again, press into the hands and the feet. Take the tailbone, just peeling the spine off the floor to whatever degree feels okay. The neck is still. Engage the glutes and the thighs here. Using your breath. And then gently lower back down. Again, slowly, vertebra by vertebra, so just lowering gently. Okay, then let's take a hug at the knees into the chest. You may want to just rock from side to side, massage the lower back. And we're going to come to take a couple of twists. So the feet can come back to the mat. Think about how your body likes to twist. So some people prefer to take their feet wide here. So you may want to take the feet to the edges of the mat and take a nice wide twist from side to side. Or some people like to stack the knees. So just choose a position, whatever position feels right for you. And then we're simply going to take the hands out to the sides into T shape, and we drop the knees to the right hand side. So the knees can either be stacked or they could be wide. And let's turn the gaze towards the left. So turn the neck towards the left, or you could keep it in neutral, whatever feels good for the neck. And take a moment here. I'm starting to let everything slow down a little bit. Breathing is going to become a bit steadier here. And then let's come back to center. And then come to the other side. So drop the knees towards the left. And we turn the gaze towards the right. Nice, steady, deep breaths here. And then gently come back to a neutral posture. And again, hug the knees into the chest. And you can turn yourselves to the side briefly and come back up to seated. And we're simply going to now close in a relaxation. So I'd like you to take any extra layers, put any extra layers back on if you need to. If you want to put your socks back on, please do so. And we're going to just take a few moments to relax now and close the practice. So your folded blanket might come in handy just to put over yourselves. We always close the practice in a shavasana, a relaxation, and we usually do this laying on the back. So again, take a few moments to get yourselves really comfortable and get whatever you need, and come to lay on your back, either with the legs extended out ahead of you, or you can take a bend into the knees, choosing whichever posture feels right. Take a couple of moments to just make any adjustments, shuffle around if you need to. And then we're starting to just bring the body to settle. So allow the body a few moments in stillness. So this relaxation posture is called shavasana, and the word shavasana means corpse pose. So it is literally like the body becomes a heavy weight and comes to complete stillness. And this is often regarded as the most difficult of all of the yoga postures by a lot of the more accomplished yoga practitioners, simply because we're not used to bringing our bodies into this state. So with that in mind, just take a few moments to lay in stillness and just observe how the body feels, noticing the effects of the practice. Are there any areas that feel a little bit lighter, a bit more open? Just start to notice, just for a few moments. breath is becoming nice and steady. It may be very, very subtle now. And then start to bring your awareness to top of the head and the back of the head. So feeling the contact points between the back of the head and the mat, and having a sense of heaviness here. And then draw your attention to the eyebrow center and softening here. And there's a gentle close to the eyelids and a softness to the cheeks and the jaw, and the tongue just comes to settle in the roof of the mouth. Notice the flow of the breath in and out of the nostrils, and start to trace the flow of the breath into the back of the nasal passages, into the back of the throat, and down into the chest. And observe any movement of the chest with the breathing. It's maybe very subtle. Just noticing how the breath is now. And the backs of the shoulders are heavy, and that heaviness is coming all the way down the arms into the hands. There's a gentle curl of the fingertips as the hands are completely relaxed. Belly is soft. There may be a slight subtle movement with the breath in the belly. The front of the pelvis is nice and open. The back of the pelvis is heavy. And that heaviness is coming all the way down the legs, all the way down to the contact point that you have with the mat. Maybe soles of the feet or the heels. So now the whole of the body is heavy, still, and relaxed. And just take a moment to stay here. And then I'd like you to bring your attention back to the body, and just think about the position of the body in the room around you. So just orientate yourself back into the room. Think about the shape and the form of your body on the mat. Draw your attention to the time of day and the day of the week. And then start to notice any sounds around you. There may be sounds further away, or there may be sounds that are close to you. It could be the sounds of your breath. And as you start to notice the sound of your breath, start to gently deepen the breath. So on the next inhalation, let's make it a little bit deeper. And let's deepen through the exhalation. So you You may want to open the mouth and take a little sigh, just releasing. And again, let's inhale and exhale, take a sigh. Keep those nice deep breaths going. Introducing a little bit of movement back into the fingertips and the toes. And let's circle through the wrists and the ankles. And then take a bend into the knees and hug the knees into the chest. Just taking a brief pause. And slowly start to rock from side to side. And now come to lay on your right hand side. So just come to turn on the right hand side. Make a pillow with the hands and take a brief pause. The eyes remain closed. And then gently raise yourselves to a seated position. So the eyes remain closed here. Bring yourselves up to seated. And then let's bring the palms together at the heart center and start to rub the hands together. So start to rub the palms. Just generate a little bit of heat here. And then gently cup the eyes with the palms. And really slowly start to blink the eyes, allowing a little bit of light in. And then lower the hands down the face, blink, blink, blink. The gaze can just remain down for a brief moment. And then we start to just raise the gaze up. And we're going to close the practice by saying Namaste. So just bowing the head. And I'd like to thank you all for joining the practice today. I hope you enjoyed today's session. And I'd like you just to take a little bit of time, make sure that you slowly bring yourselves back to whatever you're doing, or go and take yourselves off to bed, or go and relax. And just slowly just reintroducing yourselves back to your activity. And that concludes the practice. So I'll let you all just either let yourselves out of the meeting, or you could even choose to stay here for a little bit longer if you like. And I hope to see you all next week. Next week's session will be focusing on neck and shoulders, and we'll send you a little reminder email before the session. So thanks everyone. And yeah, I hope to see you next week. Thank you.